All right. As you can see, that's so hi everyone. I'm so great to be back here and see so many of you. And yeah, I think this never get old. So I'm still very nervous. So hope you don't mind. So and I hope you enjoy the conference so far as much as I do. So we had a lot of great talks and discussions from technical perspective. And today I'd like to give a relative non-technical talk and hope it can bring you some thoughts and inspiration. Okay. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony Fu, and hi. My girlfriend Ines showed me this cute avatar, and also the illustration we're going to see later. So thanks to her. And yeah, so my name is Anthony Fu, and I'm the core member of Nuxt, Vue, and Vite. I'm also the creator of Vue, Slide Dev, VTest, Uno CSS, and a few other open source projects. So I'm currently working at Nuxt Lab on the framework team. So you can find me on my website, ntfu.me, and it should has all the links you need. So I'm really appreciate the chance I got to allows me to work in open source full time. And I would like to say thank you for everyone that's giving me the support and opportunity that's make this possible to me. So it's always been my dream to work in open source and build things that can help the people around the world, like attending awesome events like this and meeting so many great people in the community. So I believe many of you, like me, are interested in doing open source. So today here, I'd like to share some of my thoughts and the experience I got. Hopefully it can provide you some inspirations on your own open source journey. So open source is a quite big topic, and I cannot really cover everything in one talk. So I'm trying to break it down and talk about different aspects of open source in each talk and make them a series. So today is going to be the part 2, the progressive path. The previous episode is about the set theory, where I already given you a few conference. The topic was independent from today's, so no worry if you have missed it. And in case you are interested, you can find the recordings on my website, ntfu.me, afterward. So first, before we dive into today's topic, let's discuss a bit about what we are expecting from open source. We know that most of the open source projects that we use daily are actual tools. And have you ever think about the question that what defines a tool? The definition should be pretty straightforward, and maybe you already have the answer in your mind. And in my interpretation, a tool should help you to get things done faster and easier, at least one of them. I guess no one wants to use a tool that makes things slower or more complicated, right? So assume we want to build a new open source project, a tool for people to use. And what would you consider to justify if a tool you are going to build is a good one or not? Well, my answer is no. You cannot really tell without being verified by the community, because there are so many factors that can affect if an open source project will work out or not. But also, I want to emphasize that in this context, and good is a relative term that depends on your expectation. It's totally OK to build a tool that solves your own problem and call it a day. It's a great tool that's worked for you anyway. And actually, I have plenty of such tools, and I'm happy about that, even though no one else is going to use them. But they got my job done at the end of the day, right? So let's revise our goal. Let's say we want to build a tool that can be beneficial, not only ourselves, but also more people. And probably the community could also help us back and make the tools better for everyone. So the question becomes, how could we make a general and useful tool for people to use? Well, I'd say that every decision comes with a trade-off. And when users consider if they want to use a tool, they will justify the cost and the benefit they could get from it. So here we have a balance. And we're going to if I'm going to put two most important factors on the balance, and I'd pick the cost of learning and using the tool versus the cost of doing something oneself. So in order to make users willing to use our tool, I'd say that the cost of learning should be much less than the cost of doing. And this has been my little go-to formula to pre-evaluate the idea I have, if the idea is worthwhile or not. So for example, let's say if I want to get a summary of 10 numbers, would you look for a library to do that? Probably no, because we can do it with a single loop of 2 lines of code. And the cost of doing ourselves is too low that we don't even consider to searching or getting a tool. But if we're going to do some calculus, and I'm certainly going to find a library to do it for me, because I basically forgot everything I got in my college. So, however, on the other hand, if the library we pick requires us to understand like 100 different configurations before we are able to use it, we're probably not going to use it and find another library that might be easier. Thus, we know that when making tools, we have to think about those cases and find a good balance to make the tool worthwhile. So here we know that we should probably reduce the cost of using the tool to make it easier for people to pick up. So from my point of view, the cost of the tool is composed by the following factors. The first one is the cost of discovering. It's about how commonly people need to realize they need a tool for a certain task. And it means that the tool should also be well-defined, and so that people can easily get what the tool is for with 1 or 2 sentences in the description. Then we have the cost of learning. This is a particularly important one, in my opinion, is that it's how easy for people to understand and to get started with a tool. As a tool is supposed to be used and make the actual work easier, we certainly don't want the user to struggle on learning it for a long time before they can actually get a benefit from using the tool. And then we have the price, the cost of the tool itself. And we're lucky that in open source, the majority of the tools are free to use. So thanks to every maintainers and contributors behind the scene and make so much awesome tools that's for everyone to use. But of course, like on the other hand, if the tool is not free, this definitely go into one of the factors that user will consider unchoosing. And then the last one is cost of adoption, like how to integrating or how to install one tool into one project, and how extendable the tool is for potential future needs, and how migration would cost, etc. So all these factors are actually introduced because the use of an external tool. In the end, we want the cost of the tool being paid off by the benefit it provides. So we know that's the complexity of the things that might transfer from one place to the other, but not going to magically disappear. So if we're going to solve a complex problem, it's really kind of hard to prevent the tool to getting complex too. So for that, what I learned from the popular open source projects out there is like something called progressive. So after this long intro, we're finally back to our topic today. What is progressive? I think progressive itself is pretty self-explaining, but here let's take a quick example with illustrations. So yeah, this is me. And I'm trying to get from the first floor to the second. But unfortunately, I hit a wall. The only way to get there is to jump through the wall, but I'm not a very sports person, so I'm not be able to jump that high. In case I might giving up and turn the back around. This is a shame because I kind of failed to accomplish what I'm aiming for because this is too hard. But from a progressive perspective, I think that's why stair has been invented. It allows us to take a multiple small steps and going upward, and eventually achieve a certain goal that will be very hard to achieve without it. So here, my interpretation to progressive is that the stairs to make things easier to approach. So let's take some real-world example, like how progressive work in our daily tools. So if you go to Vue's official documentation, And inside the docs, there's a statement mentioned that Vue is a framework that can grow with you and adapt with your need. I have heard people saying that one of the main selling points of Vue is that Vue is very easy to learn and get started. And more than that, I see that Vue is awesome because it can be used in basically everywhere, thanks to the progressive approach it takes. So Vue is progressive on integrations. Vue provides multiple builds and offers many ways to be used in different scenarios. Like you can use Vue with a single line of CDN import and enhance your web applications, even in a static HTML file without any build tool. And then we can also use Vue components as web components, so it can be coexist with the other framework. Vice versa, you can also import web components in your Vue applications. And when we have the build tool set up, we can build Vue applications with Vite, for example, with the Vue single file components, and collocate necessary context inside a single file. And this allows to build interactive single-page applications with ease. And with tools like vPress, it allows you to have efficient static site generation that ships minimum JavaScript while retains a great developer experience. And with a tool like Nuxt, we could have server-side render with Vue to maximize the user experience and as well as the better SEO results. So native targeting is also possible by Ironic or native script, as Jessica just made an awesome showcase. And then we have the upcoming Vapor mode, which allows components to opt in a more performant Vino-less render engine to optimize even further for performance critical scenarios. So Vue's approach provides the progressive on the level of integrations. It allows it to cover the need for different scenarios or even coexist with the other technology. This means even you have a large code base with the other stack, but you also want to get started with using Vue, you can still adopt some part of your app using Vue first and gradually migrate each part slowly. And as far as I know, like for example, like Wikimedia also picked Vue as their next framework and start to enhance it with Vue. In the end, the goal is to make our tool easy to adopt for different scenarios and needs, and so that we can serve a wider range of the users. And then let's talk about Nuxt. If you go to Nuxt.com, you'll see it's being titled as the intuitive Vue framework. And in the docs, it mentions Nuxt's goal is to make the web intuitive and performant with a great developer experience. And that brings us to the next session, progressive onboarding. So if you have ever tried Nuxt starter template, you will find it surprisingly easy to start with a Nuxt app. All you need to do is to have a Nuxt install as your dev dependency and create a simple Vue file component as app.vue. And that's it. That's all you need to get started with Nuxt. Even to someone who never tried Nuxt or Vue, it's probably not hard to tell what it will renders or how to modify it to change the text you want, as long as they got a basic idea of what is HTML. So I think Nuxt intuitive here means that you can get started with a very minimal knowledge, while also it should be fairly easy to enable more features as you need it. So let's talk about the other aspect of Nuxt, what Nuxt is good at, progressive on features. So we know that Nuxt works with a bare minimum starters, but also we know that in a real-world application that it won't be look that simple. So we need a lot of capability to accomplish various needs and also a way for us to organize the code in a manageable way. So Nuxt is a framework that can grow with you, with your need. Like to say, if you want some components to separate and reuse the logic, in Nuxt you can just create the components files under the components directory, and they will be auto-discoverable across your project. And then if our app needs the capability of serving multiple pages and navigations, you can create a pages directory, and we'll set up the Vue router for you, and the components under the directory will be automatically registered to your route based on their file name. One of the other great part is that until you do this, Vue router and the related code are never shipped to your production app before you're actually using it. Say, our app now is ready to go, and we want to deploy the site to somewhere. There are quite many deploy platforms that you can choose from. So usually you need to learn a little bit like how to deploy X frameworks on the Y platform, etc. But with Nuxt, it just works on all major hosting service with zero config, thanks to the automatic deploy preset powered by Nitron. It's also common for a web app to have some server logic and API endpoint. In Nuxt, you can simply create a server/API directory with a very similar convention like pages for routing. Nitron will deploy them to a serverless function based on the hosting service, and we'll have the end-to-end type safety on development. So talking about type safety, if later you learn JavaScript and want to use it in Nuxt, so no problem, it will just work, and as Nuxt is already understanding it. Like for more features like progressive web apps, and search engine optimizations, internationalization, etc. Nuxt provides a rich module ecosystem that can integrating with them with a few clicks. And finally, in case you're interested in more features, Nuxt also provides a Nuxt Dev tool for you to inspect the internals or analyze your tools. All these features are opt-in, meaning that you don't need if you don't need a certain feature, you don't need to learn it at all. And once you find it useful later, you can always grab it back easily. To help with the feature discovery, we made Nuxt Dev tool, as we just mentioned. And for example, like Nuxt Dev tool provides a modules tab that you can have a quick overview of how many modules you have installed, and with a link to their documentations or source code repo. And so it also offers you a nice UI for you to search through all the modules across the community. And you can ask DevTool to automatically download them and install it for you with a single click inside the UI. So DevTool is built to help feature discovery and understanding, and to assist you to craft even more awesome application. Yeah, just by the way, that we already have the DevTool kit talk made by Guillaume. So we hope that these features can be bring up to the other framework, and we will see. It's a bright future. And on top of documentation side, Nuxt has. In the past months, we start to build an interactive tutorial playground. Some of you probably have watched a live streaming on building it. Thank you for working together with me, by the way. So Nuxt tutorial allows beginners to have a more linear step-by-step learning experience. So they can start playing with Nuxt more easier, even without the need to set up or install Nuxt. It's just another case that we are trying to get the progressive onboarding experience even smoother. So in short, the point here is that we should grow with users and not putting too much things up front at once. Making things easier to start with and expose new concepts and powers progressively along the way. Then let's talk about one more example, Vite. Vite titled itself as a next generation front-end tooling. I'm pretty sure no one would question that. In Vite philosophy section, the docs mention Vite works closely with a project in the ecosystem to minimize the regressions on each release. And let's see how it's done in action. Vite is on major version 5 right now, and during the past 4 years, we basically keep the pace is like releasing every one major version per year to keep the JavaScript ecosystem and the evolving standards. Some of you probably have been through that period that we do major release. The last one with V5 was released on November last year, so not too far away. And it's not a secret that Vite's major release has a very smooth migration path, and we received many comments mentioning that they are successful migration cases. So Project Monorepo mentioned they upgrade V2 to V3 with only bumping the version, and everything keep working as is. So Killian even described Vite as the most painless full version upgrade in a build ecosystem ever on the release of Vite 5. So many comments like this, and thank you, and we're glad to hear those stories. So if you look into Vite plugins you are using, you will find many of their package.jsums follow a similar pattern like this. And Vite appears in the pair dependency and with a version range from V5 all the way down to V2. This means that plugins keep working from V2 to 5 perfectly without the need to drop the support for the previous Vite version. Not to mention that there is 3 years in between for such active tools like Vite. So Vite team has put a lot of care to make this possible. And we care a lot on every change we made, and we even work out the idea of ecosystem CI that runs the test of the major downstream frameworks that's on almost every pull request to make sure they have minimal impact to the ecosystem. The practice has later been adopted to Vue, Nuxt, and many other frameworks. So, and let's talk about like progressive unbreaking changes. So I guess probably no one likes breaking changes. But somehow breaking changes are also quite important for the code base to stay healthy and more maintainable in the long run. It helps us to fix the imperfectness with our previous design with a better context we have today. While it's hard to avoid introducing them, I believe there would be some way to make the transition smoother and easier for users to adopt. So taking the experience we had in Vue and Vite, I see there is 2 major ways to achieve that. So we bring back the graph we had before, referring the jump between major version 1 to 2, for example. And one way to make breaking change progressively is to do forward compatibility, and the other is backward compatibility. Let me explain. So forward compatibility is about to compatible with the versions in the future. Like to say, if you know that you're going to have a new feature, and in the next breaking change, you can bring the feature back in the current version in a non-breaking way. In practice, we often introduce flags like experimental or features for user, and to explicitly opt in changes if they want to try new stuff, while the mainstream of the user can still be on the current version without breakage. In Vue, we have the example of Vue Composition API plugin back in Vue 2. It provides the capability of using Vue 3's composition APIs for Vue 2 apps before they can migrate to Vue 3. And later, we have Vue 2.7, 2 years after Vue 3.0 has been released, to have the composition API support baked in, aligning more with the Vue 3's behavior and feature set. For Nuxt, we introduced Nuxt Bridge to bring the changes between Nuxt 2, bridging the changes between Nuxt 2 and 3. And let's talk about backward compatibility, which you probably heard more often. And this is about the compatibility with the previous version. A common practice is that we will mark a certain feature as deprecated and print the warnings upon usage, and eventually remove later in the major version later on. So that means that it's better to do smaller, but also it can be more frequent major release to make the migration easier. And taking about examples, Vue has the compatibility build. Sorry, Vue 3 has the compatibility build Vue/compact, which is built on top of the foundation of Vue 3 with additional flags to simulate the legacy Vue 2 behavior that you can migrate once a feature. On Nuxt, we have Nuxt that allows module author to build modules that can be working in both Vue in Nuxt 2 bridge or Nuxt 3, etc. So from my understanding, I think progressive of breaking change is fundamentally a law of the coexistence. When we make changes, we should provide the middle stage for people to start to take a rest on migration, allowing the coexist on both legacy and new, so the work can be done progressively and reduce the chance of breakage. So to recap today's topic, we talk about progressive on different aspects of building tools. The first is about progressive progressive on onboarding, and we should make a tool easy to learn and understand for more people to get started with the tool we're going to build. And then we talk about progressive on integrations for tools to cover different scenario and easier to adopt. Then we have the progressive on features. It's pretty common that we want our tools to be powerful, but it also can be overwhelming to users to start with. So taking the progressive approach would allow us to start with minimum and grow with the user as user needs. And finally, we have progressive on breaking changes to provide a middle stage to make migration step easier step by step. So there are much more aspects of progressiveness that we don't have time to talk about this today. But my goal here is to bring up the idea of progressive paths to you. It might not seem to be a very cool or unusual thing that people would get excited about, but I think this plays a very important role to our daily software development. And we should think about it more often when we're building stuff, not only for open source projects, but it can also be used for your products or the way of doing stuff in general. So to finish my talk in one sentence, I'd say to provide the progressive path is to enable users the capability of divide and conquer towards the goal they have. And I hope you enjoy and find it useful. And that's all for my talk. Thank you, and happy hacking.